President Trump is still pushing his one big, beautiful bill to solve America's economic woes. He took to Truth Social and said that the bill's priorities included permanent tax cuts, spending cuts, energy, historic investments in defense, and so much more. Trump also said that Senate Majority Leader John Thune and Speaker Mike Johnson are working together to make this bill a reality. So here with more is our Blaze Media senior politics editor, Chris Bedford. So Bedford, I mean, we've been talking about this one big beautiful bill for months now. So how likely is it that we actually get something passed?
Talking to even some of the more cynical people on Capitol Hill yesterday, and the feeling is still bullish. The Senate has been moving more slowly than anybody would like. They seem to take almost pride in that. And there's this weird thing that happens with the Senate. Well, Mike Johnson's got his hands full with the House of Representatives. He was still able, really actually a rare testament to the House Republicans' ability to get things together. And also, I've been told, a testament to the fact that Mike Johnson wasn't actually that closely involved in the negotiations on the budget. Was actually able to put something together a number of weeks ago that made all parties happy. And then they talked to the Senate. And the weird thing about the U.S. Senate is every single one of these personalities in what is essentially the most exclusive private club in the United States or in the world seems to operate from their own planet. Yeah, you have even guys you generally agree with, friends of the show, like Mike Lee or Johnson, coming out and saying, well, I think that this budget should cut $3 trillion. Or I think this budget should build a moon base. And all these different things, like no one had actually been negotiating literally across the building from them for weeks, very carefully, to create something that could actually pass the House. So fortunately, there's actually been some bicameral discussion between them. It's really, I think, refreshing to get Republican senators going over to talk to the Republican members of the House of Representatives, especially when they're talking to allies and people they see eye to eye on. And that's brought a lot of people together to say, this thing, you've been working on it for weeks? I'm sorry, I only read my own Google News clips. I have no idea what you're talking about. And people are coming together in this last minute. Now, the Senate's also going about this in a little bit of a funny way. I guess they're going about it through the formal and traditional way. But one thing to remember is that senators hate to work. Most of them. Not all of them, but most of them really hate to work. And the hardest work they ever do all year is the vote-a-rama. When everyone gets to add amendments and it gets chaotic and crazy and you're voting up and you're voting down, you're there till 2 a.m. And they're setting themselves up with this process for multiple opportunities for that sort of thing to really occur and become dangerous for the passage of this budget and send everyone back to the drawing board, essentially. Usually, I mean, they have to pass this through reconciliation, which is a process by which you can pass legislation that has only to do with the budget with only 51 votes, as opposed to a normal piece of legislation that would require 60 votes. They should probably start with that instruction, but the traditional way to do it is to come up with a budget and then fit it into those instructions. So that's the way they're doing it. It's a little slow. It sets up a lot of different places, a lot of different jams where everyone's going to get out of their car and yell whatever they want into the sky, and they'll see how they plan that out. And then they get back into their cars and they drive a little further down the highway. But people are still bullish, even those cynics who are exhausted of this whole process, that you're going to have a budget out by Easter.
All right. Well, let's talk about the Beltway Brief, which everyone should be subscribed to if they're not already. Shame on you. Watching this show, you need to go to blaze.com/Bedford and sign up, as the bottom of the screen informs you. But if you have not signed up or you were too lazy to read today, in today's Beltway Brief, you break down Congress's no good week. So tell us about that, because we are 3 months into this presidency, and your point about this week is indicative of many of the larger themes that you point out here. We're in a time in which Congress really doesn't have anything to show for themselves.
Yeah. I mean, I was calling people yesterday, talking to them when I was able to catch them, and saying, hey, what have you guys been doing? I mean, tell me, like, seriously, I don't mean to insult you. I'm not here to make fun of you. I know that you're just one of the people who's fighting, but what would you say the House has accomplished in these past? They've been here for 2 weeks longer than Donald Trump has been here. And there was a couple shrugs and some hard thoughts, like it was a quiz, like when you used to see the man on the street go around and say, what's your favorite Barack Obama quote? And people would just be completely stumped. Well, he's a great speaker. What's your favorite quote? All right, we've accomplished so much. So what have you actually done? And they have done some things around the peripheral. They did the National Defense Authorization Act, which usually always gets by, often with a little bit of fighting along the sides. They did the CR, which just kept the lights on, essentially. But that was actually a difficult negotiation to be able to do that with Republicans and not Democrats. Johnson had done every single previous bill of his big act of his tenure the year before. And the Senate had done confirmations. But there wasn't a lot. And the House got shut down for an entire week by this stunt over whether or not you should be able to do remote voting, which is probably not even constitutional in the first place, even if it does make you feel better in the moment. The House of Representatives has been plagued by a couple of things, though. They started out with a very thin majority, and then they lost two members. They lost Matt Gaetz, of course, and then they lost Waltz. Matt Gaetz before they even were sworn in, and then Waltz to the White House. They're supposed to lose Stefanik. She is really unhappy about the fact that they pulled that because it's a cool gig for someone from New York, I guess, to go to that disgusting building and yell at world leaders. I understand it. I understand the draw. And then you had literally two Democrats die in office. So that kind of gave them a little bit more breathing room, politically speaking. And then they added two more Republicans to replace Matt Gaetz just this week. But everything's still shut down. The House has to work with Paulina Luna to figure out a way to make it so that they can gavel back in without immediately passing or having a vote on her legislation to do remote voting. That takes the president, who's been trying to stay out of it, to weigh in, although he waded into this Thursday night when he said he'd been talking to Luna and it seemed like maybe this was a good idea. And then Mike Johnson said, no, you've been talking to me, and you realize that it's not a good idea. It just doesn't inspire a whole lot of confidence. And the same thing's going on in the Senate, where you've got four senators, Rand Paul, Mitch McConnell, Murkowski, and Collins, 1 to 4 of which are going to mess with everything that you do, basically, no matter what it is. And they have a difficult time actually moving there, and they don't even intend to move very fast there. They're like, well, we're going to do confirmations for the first 3 months, and then maybe we'll get to budget this summer. And then maybe we'll get to taxes by fall was the initial idea. They were saying, well, don't we have until the end of the year to get to taxes? Where the House of Representatives was pointing out, listen, if small businesses are going to make decisions based on how much money they have next year, they really do need those taxes to be figured out before Christmas time. So it's just been sluggish. It's been slow. There's been slim majorities. They have had some discipline, and they've done a couple things. The House of Representatives has had a fairly good year considering. But if you just take a step back and say, what exactly do you do here? What have you done lately? It's worth pointing out that the main things that the Trump administration wanted, which was a budget in the first month, very difficult to do, and a bill getting money to border and security in the first month, a standalone, which is questionable strategically. None of that has been done. They've basically just done housework around the place, kept the lights on, and maybe by Easter, we'll finally have a budget.
All right, Bedford, we have about 2 or 3 minutes left. I have to get your take because this is like old man yelling at the sky territory at this point. Jonah Goldberg has a one-man fight, basically, against Glenn Beck. He keeps going on X. He keeps posting at Glenn Beck. He was like, really, Glenn? This is the president that you wanted? He was out there. He ripped off the blue-collar contractors. He cheats on all his wives. He doesn't know how tariffs work. This is the president that you dreamed of? Right? Like, what do you make of the man who wrote liberal fascism, who had actual promise at one point in time? What's Jonah doing now?
That was so long ago, that liberal fascism book. It was so long ago. And Jonah Goldberg is just, a lot of those people, actually. You saw it with Bill Kristol. They're young people at one point with a whole lot of promise and the whole world in front of them. And they simply do not measure up to the things that they feel like the world owes them. The things that they'd hoped for in life, that they thought that they ought to be the next Bill Buckley, that Bill thought maybe I'll overshadow my father, Irving. And then when it doesn't happen, and you reach that stark realization that maybe you won't be remembered as a Buckley figure, or you won't be remembered as an Irving Kristol, you start to go a little crazy. you become demented. You start posting weird pictures with your dogs and writing creepy things in your newsletters and turning in all the friends around you. There's this weird, awful thing, especially in the television business, where there's an incredible sense of envy, personal animosity that drives huge amounts of what are portrayed as political calculations and political opinions and decisions. And, I remember back in the day, Tucker once told me that if you live long enough in Washington, D.C., you will become a parody of yourself. Now, Bill Kristol obviously did that. Jonah Goldberg's just kind of become like a Gollum shadow of himself. I'm not sure exactly what to take from him, what's so interesting about him anymore. And you know what else? I think about this a lot. He's missing out on one of the most fun times in conservative politics ever possibly imagined. I mean, if you go to the Blaze.com and check out the merchandise shop, you can get a preppy hat that says the Gulf of America, established in 2025. There are songs coming out. There are comedians on your side. There are shows on your side. This is the most exciting time in the world, but instead you're at home tweeting about your pets and being mean to Glenn for winning for once, by the way, for winning for once. What does National Review have to point to for its successes in the last 30 years? The Bush administration, the Iraq War, the expansion of Medicaid. I don't know what the heck he's angry about, but all I can tell you is he's a bit of a golem.
Don't ever turn into that, Bedford. Promise us.
Never.
We will come in and beat you up if that happens. I promise you and our viewers that.
To do self-reflection, what I always think about with these guys is exactly what you're saying. Is they had a taste of a time where they were very influential, right? And that was taken away from them, and hence the inability to change and hating on everyone. That's a warning for everybody, right? That Bill Kristol, Weekly Standard, were influencing the Bush administration. Jonah Goldberg, the Corner back in the day, everyone's reading it. And it's like, guess what? Things change. And if you get mad and envious about it, well, I guess there, but for the grace of God, go all of us. But I don't really want to see it anymore.
Never change, Bedford.
I'm never changing. I'll pickle before then.